The Barn and the Book. Chapter 9, Part 1. It was Christmas Eve. The church was full of nuns and families. The air was full of their voices, singing and praying. In the candlelight, the icons seemed to glow and flicker, as if they too were moving and breathing. Sam had to close his eyes every few minutes, but he kept opening them again. It was warm inside the church, and it smelled good. Best of all, Saucer was with him. Together they stood on a little red rug at the back of the church, put there especially for them by Sister Catherine. Sam could see his dad and Mom a few feet away, standing beside Aunt Eva and Uncle Rick. He could see Elias and Matthew and their parents, and Grace and her parents. He could even see Macrina, if he wanted to. He could see Sister Anna and Sister Catherine and all the nuns, and Urantissa. She was very small and very old, but Sam could see her standing, leaning on her stick. Sam closed his eyes. He felt Saucer's nose bumping against his leg. Sam opened his eyes and looked down at Saucer. Saucer looked up at Sam and laid a friendly paw on his foot. "Tonight," thought Sam, "tonight, I'm going to hear you talk. You and the goats and the rabbits and everything. If you do talk. I hope you talk." Sam had a plan. After church, the families would all go to sleep in the guest rooms. The guest rooms were in the same building as the nuns' quarters, but they were on the first floor. The nuns lived upstairs, where visitors did not go. It was a small monastery, and the animal farm was only a short walk along the path from the living quarters. Sam knew every inch of the monastery. He had explored it all this summer, with Saucer at his heels. Sam looked down at Saucer again. "When everyone goes to sleep, that's when I'll go to the barn. I can watch the red numbers on the travel clock. Mom always brings the travel clock. We're going to bed early tonight, so we can get up early in the morning. They'll fall asleep before midnight. Then I'll go to the barn." Sam stopped thinking for a few minutes. He watched the candles and stared hard at an icon, trying to catch the saint actually moving. Did he move? Maybe not. It was the light moving. That's what made him seem alive. When it was time, Sam walked up to take communion, and Saucer waited peacefully on the little red rug. Together they listened to the end of the service. Together they slipped out the back door of the church. When he took Saucer back to his doghouse and patted him to say good night, Sam noticed that Saucer's fur smelled like incense. Sam's plan worked. His family went to bed not long after the service ended. His mother set the travel clock on the table by the bed. Sam could see the red numbers from his sleeping bag on the floor. He laid his coat next to him, and amazingly, his mother didn't tidy it away before she went to bed. Sam's dad fell asleep first. Sam could hear the change in his breathing. But still, he waited. It was only 10 o'clock. He had to be sure his mother was asleep too before he got up. At 10:20, Sam pushed back the top of his sleeping bag and carefully sat up. It was a test. If his mother was still awake, she would notice and ask if he needed something. Sam counted to 5 in his head, and then started crawling out of his sleeping bag. Nothing happened. He lifted his coat with one hand and stood up. Nothing happened. Sam tiptoed to the door. His shoes were there. He picked them up and tucked them under his arm with the coat. Now all he had to do was get out the door. Sam breathed in, then out, then in, then out. He wrapped his hand around the doorknob and turned it very, very slowly. Behind him, his father stirred. His arm twitched, and Sam's mother sighed in her sleep. Sam froze. He rolled his eyes sideways so he could see the numbers on the travel clock again. He waited until a minute had passed. It was hard to hold the doorknob twisted for 60 seconds, but Sam did it. When a minute had passed, Sam pulled gently on the knob and the door swung open. Like everything at the monastery, the door had been well cared for. It sat snugly on its hinges, and its hinges were well oiled. It did not make a sound when Sam opened it. Sam tiptoed through the door. He blinked. The lights were on in the hall. He pulled the door shut behind him, trying to be slow and fast at the same time. He didn't want the light to wake up his parents, but he didn't want to bang the door. With the door safely closed behind him, Sam set his shoes quietly on the floor and pushed his feet into them. He pulled on his coat, but decided to wait until he was outside to zip it up. Zippers made a zipper noise. It wasn't a big noise, but Sam wasn't taking any chances. The door at the end of the hall was locked at night, but it could still be opened from the inside. Sam put both hands on the crossbar and pushed. The door swung slowly open. Sam held the crossbar with one hand and stepped outside. He grasped the handle on the outside of the door, let go of the inside of the door, and slowly let the door swing shut. Phew! He was out. A small shaded bulb above the door made a pool of light around him. He went down 2 steps to the path and hopped off the path onto the frosty grass. Once away from the building, Sam tipped back his head and gulped the cold, clear air like a drink of water. Above him, Sam saw thousands of stars. Stars are funny, thought Sam. They make light we can see 1 billion million miles away, but they don't make enough light for me to see where I'm going in the dark. Sam ran lightly over the grass. He didn't need starlight to show him the way. Sam loved the barn. He could have found his way there with his eyes closed.